Hello, this is Xackadee and welcome to my top 14 Organization XIII members list. In the Kingdom Hearts series, the main villains from Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories onwards was Organization XIII. They were an organisation of 13 members and one replica, which was passed off as a member for some time. And they went around gathering hearts and causing trouble for Sora and, being bad guys, stuff like that. This list on who the best Organization XIII members are is entirely my opinion, and they are all ranked in character and personality, role in the plot, as well as weapons and powers. Note, any role any Organization member plays in Kingdom Hearts 3D will not be included on this list for the sake of spoilers.
Number 10. Luxord, the Gambler of Fate. Luxord reaches this spot because his role in the plot is practically nil. He does nothing. Throughout the entire series, he does practically nothing but sit around and make comments about cards and luck and strategies and all, but he doesn't do much for most of the games. In Kingdom Hearts 2, he's nothing more than an obstacle. He shows up once in one world to toy with you a bit, and then the next time you see him, he just instantly fights you. But you don't talk to him, he doesn't say anything important, he doesn't do anything important, he just fights you, and that's all. As far as his personality goes, he's a bit bland. He doesn't really, as I've said, you don't get a lot of time with him, he doesn't develop a lot, he just makes all these comments about strategies and tactics and stuff, but he's really unimportant. Not to mention that when he fights against Sora, he just jumps straight into the battle. Although, when he was defeated, he did seem a little disappointed and even sad that Roxas had done that to him. His saving grace is that the boss battle was pretty unique and fun. His powers are pretty cool. You have to admit it was strategic of him to immediately remove all of Sora's friends at the beginning of the fight. He was a decent battle. It was unique and interesting, not too special, and a lot of people were annoyed by it that it wasn't just a simple boss battle. He isn't much of a fighter, but nonetheless he was okay, and that kind of saves him, not to mention his using cards as a weapon. I mean, that's pretty unique. You have to give him credit for that. Number 4. Zexion, the Chilly Academic. I think I'm safe in saying that nobody likes this guy. He's really annoying. He treats everyone like he's better than them, and he's really arrogant, and he's not that powerful. His boss fight, his powers, his abilities, they're nothing special. I mean, his weapon is a shield. Goofy wields a shield. And Goofy is way cooler than this guy when he wields his really big, icy shield. He's not that fast, he's not that tough. He's really boring to listen to. He rambles about stuff no one understands. Sora doesn't understand it, and even though he's trying to tell Sora stuff that's kind of important, then he gets killed by Axel, and I think that's why I give him slightly more points, because, well, he had a pretty cool death, being killed by Axel. And to give him a bit more credit, there is also his role in the plot. He is pretty important considering his work with the replicas and probably what he did before ending up as nobodies, I'm sure he was a very valuable member of the organization to Xemnas, so sucks to be Xemnas. Number 3. Zeldin, the Whirlwind Lancer. I think I'm safe in assuming that I wasn't the only one who needed to use Mickey in the final boss fight against him. Because, he's really tough. He's really hard to beat. I had to use Mickey twice in the same boss fight because he's got all these lances which he spins, jabs, hurls around. Unless you know how to handle this guy, he's a really tough boss fight. He doesn't even touch most of his lances. He's got the power of wind. He flies around the place and he's awesome. He's really cool. Unfortunately, the good points end there. Like Luxord, he really doesn't have a role in the plot. He doesn't do a lot. He just hangs around as the muscle in any game you see him. When you fight against him, he's, really... Why did he even start fighting Sora? Just decided, oh man, that's it, and just started fighting him? Considering that Bell, who's an ordinary person, members of the general public usually do not assault Organization 13, and yet Bell elbowed this guy in the stomach and ran off with his rose. I mean, that's kind of wimpy. It's a bit pathetic. Nonetheless, he's rolling the plot. He doesn't do a lot. He's the muscle of Organization 13, and it shows. He doesn't have a lot of personality. He talks a bit about Kingdom Hearts, rambles a little bit, nothing too serious, nothing too important. I think we've pretty much covered this guy. Moving on. Number 5, Larkseat, the silent hero. Oh boy, here we go again. This is basically Zeldin with Earth powers, and why he gets better than Zeldin is because he really shows a bit more personality than Zeldin. Despite having less of a role plot, being a Riku obstacle in Castle Oblivion, he actually seems kind of interesting, because when he talks to Roxas, he seems like a really peaceful guy in Days, as well as the fact that he's always so protective of Zexion. He seems to really care about him, and well, I don't know. I'm curious about this guy. He's really interesting, but we never get enough time to develop with him, which is why he's so down in the list. But at least he's cool. He also has that really cool weapon. Overall, he's really mysterious and curious. I want to know more about this guy. So here's hoping future games explain more about him, because I'm really curious and I'm not being told enough. I want to see more of this guy, but not so much for Zeldin, I'm afraid. Yes, well, I think we're done here. Moving on. Number 11, Malucia, the graceful assassin. This guy has no personality whatsoever, which is why he's down in the list. I mean, he talks around, picks on this guy, tells this guy to go do that, but he's really boring. He's not as bad as Vexen, I think. Maybe. Even, at least Vexen had a bit of voice variation. I mean, Malucia uses the exact same tone when talking to everybody. It doesn't seem that interesting. He doesn't seem like he has that much of a goal. He just wants to conspire against Xemnas, which is kinda dull. But he is a really good boss fight. He is really tough. He's got a scythe. He wields a pink scythe. It takes a real man to wield a pink scythe. Not only that, I don't know why, but for some reason he wields the element of flower. I don't know why the organization need a guy to wield the flowers, but nonetheless, Malucia does it with style. I mean, every time he disappears, he has those flower petals, and he summons his scythe out of a flower petal. He makes having flower power look cool. So yeah, props to Malucia for that. So overall, memorable boss, really powerful and cool and strong, but overall pretty dull. Number 12, Larkseat, the savage nymph. She's here for pretty much the same reason as Malucia in terms of role of the plot. I mean, she's basically Malucia 2, who kind of fights Sora for a bit, conspires against the organization, but overall achieves nothing. In terms of powers and weapon, she has not quite as cool a weapon as Malucia, and powers, she has lightning powers, which is always shown through her anger. When she gets angry, man, it's cool. But overall, yeah, she's a bit better than Malucia, which is good. And she also has a way better personality. She's angry, such a mean person, really rude to everybody. I mean, that's why I like her more than Malucia, because she actually shows character. She actually pretends to have feelings rather than Malucia, who doesn't even try. And yeah, she's kind of a cool villain, honestly. I mean, I like the cruel villains. You have to be cruel to be cool in my book. Number 9, Demyx, the melodious nocturne. Alright, now we're getting onto the more positive side of the list. Let me tell you, Demyx, I like Demyx. I honestly do. He's a tough boss fight, but he summons his weapon in the coolest way possible. And a lot of his moves are just cool to watch, although they're tough to take. But he's really powerful, even though he doesn't show it, and even though he doesn't want to fight, even though he's a bit of a coward sometimes. It's all really a ruse. I mean, when he fights, He's the only Organization XIII member who really fakes emotion. The only one who actually tries to annoy and confuse Sora, other than Ziggler, I guess. And nonetheless, he's kind of funny a little bit. His role in the plot isn't too much, you know, he gets in Sora's way a bit, probably sent by the organisation, either to throw off Sora or to make him tougher, or to get rid of Demyx. Either way, Demyx he cuts the game in half with his memorable boss fight, so I'm putting him here at number 8, because, well, he's Demyx. I mean, what do you think his real name is? Dine? Medi? I don't know. Also, his death was very satisfying to watch. In your face! You and your water clone things. Number 14. Zeon. She has no title. Zeon is not technically an organisation member. Well, she is, but not technically a nobody. That's why she's not considered a member. That's why Organization 13 is considered Organization 13, even though, you know, she's the 14th member. She's an odd one. Her inclusion to the entire plot is a bit questionable, you know? We could have had a whole game without her, and it wouldn't have really hindered the game, but nonetheless, she's in the series, and so I will judge her because she's in the series and how she fits into the series. And she gives the game a much deeper plot than it needed and maybe even deserved, but I think that gives her points. I think that's a good thing. I think she gives the story a lot more depth, gives Sora and Axel a lot more angles having to deal with each other. She kind of helps Roxas towards leaving Organization 13. It's because of her that Roxas decides to go back to Organization 13 to free Kingdom Hearts. It's because of her that Roxas, on his way to going back, ends up fighting Riku, and we have the awesome deep dive sequence. Thanks, Zeon. Personality-wise, she's a very nice person. She's a really caring person, and a lot of people kind of pick on her for that, but I think that's a good thing. I like her for that. And when she dies at the end of the game, I was actually kind of sad. That's actually a scene in Kingdom Hearts that still kind of hits me, still affects me, even now when I watch it. And, you know, I really credit Zeon with that. However, her one downside is her powers and weapon. She has a Keyblade. We've seen it before. We've seen it's not a unique Keyblade, it's just another copy of Roxas's or Sora's maybe. And frankly, her powers are nothing special. She's actually just a clone of Roxas. So, I mean, that is literally what she is. Unfortunately, that holds her back a bit. But nonetheless, I like Zeon and she's a good character. Maybe we'll see her again. In the series, of course, not on the list. Man, I kind of confused Sora and Roxas a couple of times back there, didn't I? Sorry about that. Moving on. Number 7. Sayax, the Lunar Diviner. Second in command to Organization, best friend originally to Axel, and a really cold, calculating, ruthless person. Where to begin? Personality. Sayax has none. Well, more people would argue that, I think, than saying he does, but he has a very monotone and very simple way of speaking. He's quite rude, no manners whatsoever, kind of treats the others like rubbish. I mean, he is in charge all the time and everything, but he really has no feelings, and that's what I think that's what I like about him. His demeanour, he's kind of scary, honestly, just the way he has power over everybody else in the organisation, and considering he's number 7 or something. I mean, anyway, role in the plot. He originally was Axel's best friend, and something changed along the way. During days, you can see how the two of them just sort of fall apart eventually by the end of the game. And, yeah, I don't know, you can almost feel sympathy for Sayax. Something happened to him. Apparently maybe Axel lost his heart, and afterwards Sayax fell into a depression and lost his too. I really want to know what happened around those two. Well, how come Sayax is number 7 and Axel's number 8? Does this mean that he fell into Organization's trap first and Axel just sort of followed after him? They've got a very curious backstory. I want to know more about it. And as for powers, Sayax has that really cool weapon, but in the boss fight, you know, Sora just takes it. Sayax is basically a stronger version of the Berserker Nobody. Nonetheless, it's pretty cool to see this really calm and really sensible man turn into a complete freak in battle, so I give Sayax credit for that. He's a very main character, so more points for that. Overall, yeah, he's here. It's Sayax. He's mean, jerk, person. Number 1. Xemnas, the superior of in-between.
Yep, we've got Xemnas here, one of the most powerful and most plot-relevant characters in the whole organization. His ethereal blades pretty much own the power all on its own, as well as the shields and all that amount of effort it took to kill him, and all the weapons he took from the other Organization XIII members. This guy is a menace. I mean, he's really tough. So that covers that part. As for role in the plot, I mean, he is Xehanort. This is the main villain of the whole franchise in nobody form. I don't think I need to say anything else. The only thing he falls down on is personality. Unlike Xyx, he doesn't have an X-shaped scar over his head, so he's not that imposing. He's just a rambler. He rants all the time about darkness and hearts and kingdom hearts, and we get it, can we kill you now? Nonetheless, he is really held in high regard by all the other nobodies. Everybody respects and fears this guy, so well done Xemnas for making it to number 5. Number 6. Zexion, the Cloaked Schemer. Zexion wields a lexicon, which is basically a book, as his weapon, and his power is over illusion. I mean, he uses illusion as his power, that's very unique. He manipulates his opponents. He's very sinister and thoughtful and just clever overall. That's what makes him very good. That's what I like about him. He's a clever and careful character, cautious. He thinks things through. He doesn't go into things head first. He was a major opponent for Xyx, which is why he has Axel take him out. So he seems to be very, very important. He seems to be a very careful and very valuable member of the organization. The way he was able to pretend to be Sora and confuse Riku for a bit. That almost worked as well. Zexion is a very good organization member, and he kind of died a bit early in the series, which is a bit of a shame because, you know, he had a very interesting relationship with, in particular, Vexen and Lexaeus, so I would have liked to see more of him. He didn't really seem to care about the other members, but he did seem to be interested in furthering Xemnas' goals. I'd really like to see how he ended up with Xemnas in the first place, so yeah, I like Zexion, and that's why he's here at number 4.
Number 13. Roxas, the Key of Destiny. Roxas is the first character to dual-wield Keyblades, and that's what makes him unique in terms of powers. While he is another Keyblade wielder, and Keyblade wielding is great and everything, it's he has 2 Keyblades, and he's really powerful when he does. First character to do that, it's awesome. You know, that's why I rank him so high, because when Roxas has 2 Keyblades, he's darn near unstoppable. In terms of role and plot, Roxas he's the main character of Days. The entire game is around him regardless of Zeon or not, and it's all about him, his character, where he goes, how big of an impact he has on Organization XIII. You know, he's kind of the reason the Organization XIII hates Sora. I mean, well, think they hate him. Nonetheless, he has a very big impact on Axel. He's what causes Axel to go through his whole plot in Kingdom Hearts 2. He's the one that Sora is constantly drawn to during Kingdom Hearts 2 and everyone keeps talking about, and you know, Roxas gives a lot to the story of Kingdom Hearts, so there's no reason why he shouldn't have a very big role in plot points, you know. He's also the reason that Riku tapped into his inner darkness and took on Xehanort's form, so that's another big point towards Roxas there. At the beginning of Days, he doesn't really have a personality. He's an empty shell, but he grows into one by the end of the game, and he becomes the character we know in Kingdom Hearts 2. That character is a really nice guy. Roxas is a genuinely nice person who cares about his friends, and, you know, there's really nothing to hate about him. Roxas is pretty innocent in that he thinks that the mark of friendship is somebody that you eat ice cream with. Hence his infamous "who else will I eat ice cream with" line. That's what makes the scene so sad. That's what makes me feel sorry for him so much. The fact that he really was losing a friend and that was his way of expressing it. It sounded silly to everybody else, but to me I felt quite moved by that. Roxas might not seem that dimensional to other people, but he really went through a lot before leaving the organization, and even afterwards. When he finally met Sora, I don't know, it's like some sort of enlightenment to him. I sure hope we see more of him. At this point I would like to apologise, I've got a bit of a cold right now, so sorry if my voice isn't that clear. Our number 2 spot goes to the number 2 member of Organization XIII, Xigbar, the free shooter. Where to begin with this guy? He's Xemnas' right-hand man, he dual-wields sniper pistols, and if all Organization personalities are fake, his is clearly the most realistic because he's got such a laid-back attitude. I mean, what a sense of humour. This guy taunts Sora for a lot of Kingdom Hearts 2, and he leaves so enigmatically. And then later we discover that he was in on Master Xehanort's plan from the very beginning back in Birth by Sleep.
His eye patch was given to him by Terra, whose body is then inhabited by Xemnas. Talk about irony. As a boss fight, a lot of people found him quite hard. I didn't really find him that hard, but I did find him really fun. He shoots you from above and then later drops down in front of you, and he manipulates space. He warps the battlefield and he hovers around the place shouting random stuff as he shoots you. He spins around the place, he gets really powerful and suddenly shots are flying at you. He's insane. This guy is really powerful. And, well, just cool. Look at him. I died deliberately just so I could fight him again. He's that fun to play against. On top of being pretty fun, he's also really mysterious. Who knows how much this guy knows about the Room of Sleep and Awakening, and heck, even his master himself. I mean, what does he know about Master Zeon, or what's his connection with him? And where do his loyalties lie as well? It's curious to know what Zigbar's really like underneath the hood, so to speak. He calls Zeon Poppet and drowns goldfish. What is there not to like about this guy? And so the number one Organization XIII member is... You saw this coming. Axel, number 8. The Flurry of Dancing Flames. Let's start with power and abilities. First of all, he wields fire. Fire is awesome, especially when you create a ring of fire around your opponent and then just lava the whole floor. On top of that, fire is even more awesome when you snap your fingers and use it to blow somebody up. Then there's his weapons, which are awesome every single time they're summoned. Seriously, these spiky frisbees, as they basically are really useful. In close combat and in ranged combat, Axel can really use these in any way, and not to mention he can summon them into his hand just like a keyblade. Why worry about throwing them away? Then there's his role in the plot. Now Axel has done quite a lot over the course of the different games, mainly in 358/2 days, where he's Roxas' best friend and mentor. He raises Roxas in a way. He turns Roxas into what he is, and considering how that affects Roxas' later decisions, and Roxas' role in the plot, I think it's safe to say that that counts for something. And then there's Chain of Memories, where Axel at first appears to be a bad guy, but then he completely dismantles Malucia's operation. He lets Namine go free, which turns the entire game around. He kills Vexen and Zexion, and he at least partially is responsible for sending the Riku replica on a journey of self-worth. And finally there's Kingdom Hearts 2, where Axel appears as a main character in the prologue, as he attempts to bring Roxas back to Organization XIII. He turns Roxas' world upside down, before Roxas chooses to leave and be with Sora. After that, Axel abandons the organization and goes on his own agenda. He kidnaps Kairi, trying to turn Sora into a Heartless with her, but he loses her to the organization. This will have more consequences later on in the game, but after that, Axel's role is to reveal Organization XIII's plan to Sora. He tells Sora what they're up to, and then afterwards he appears to defend Sora from an army of nobodies. He sacrifices his life to protect Sora and Roxas. In the end, he redeems himself and fades away. But then he returns in Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. We don't know exactly what he's doing, but he's back to normal as Lee, and he'll probably be doing something big. Sounds like it according to Noruma.
And finally there's his personality. He once said he wanted everyone he met to remember him, and he really succeeded. I mean, where to begin with this guy? In Chain of Memories, he's still fun and happy, but he's also a bit cruel considering the way he kills Vexen. He has no remorse in anything he does and was willing to go through Namine to get rid of Malucia. Nonetheless, over the course of time, in 358/2 days, he changes as he gets to know Roxas and Zeon, becoming a bit more friendlier and helpful. But as we know him overall in all the games altogether, he is just a fun, laid-back and friendly guy. He cares about his friends and he does anything to help them, and that leads him to his death, but in a very redeeming way. And that's why Axel is the number one organization member. Got it memorized?